Hello and welcome to another edition of Address-Based Layout Randomization brought to you by Antisyphon Security Training. Antisyphon Security Training is the home of Pay What You Can training and affordable training solutions for your organization. It's also brought to you by Black Hills Information Security. We do pen testing and stuff, so check us out. All right, everybody. So today we're going to be talking about something that I absolutely love and I absolutely hate. What exactly am I talking about? Well, we're going to be talking about eBPF specifically through the lens of Sysmon for Linux. So before we get crazy, we should probably explain what is eBPF. eBPF is like the enhanced or extended Berkeley packet filter. And it's funny because if you use BPF filters, you're using them with TCP dump and network traffic. That's not what eBPF is doing. Like you would think it would be the enhanced filters for network traffic. It's not true. In fact, if you actually look around online and you start asking questions, what is eBPF? You're going to find a bunch of really super geeky Linux people say eBPF is like JavaScript for HTTP, which absolutely will freak out any information security professional and not make us feel warm and fuzzy about eBPF. So once again, what exactly is eBPF? Another answer that you hear from eBPF is it allows you to use virtualization technology within the kernel to be able to run apps in a secure way. And that sentence that I just said as a security professional makes my skin curl again because it sounds awful. So whenever we're thinking about what eBPF actually is, eBPF allows you to create hooks in the kernel. And when you run an application, you can set breakpoints and you can do enhanced things. Now, this is very different than like loadable kernel modules where you have to load full kernel functionality, kind of that micro versus macro kernel or monolithic kernel argument that permeated the scene, back in the 60s. I'm not quite that old, but I'm damn close. But it allows you to kind of take that microkernel architecture and run additional things in the kernel and allows you to set more breakpoints and allows you to see and have greater visibility on applications and what they're doing. So after all of what I just said, what the hell does that actually mean? Honestly, if we look at Sysmon, if we look at what Sysmon provides us for Windows with eBPF and the power that eBPF has on the Linux kernel, we also have the ability to do that level of monitoring on the Linux kernel so we can get process executions, file opens, network connections, and our fine friends at Microsoft have already done that with Sysmon for Linux. So if you're thinking about what can we do with eBPF from a security perspective, look no further than Sysmon for Linux because it's using eBPF to give us unprecedented visibility into the Linux kernel as far as what is going on. And that's what we're going to be doing. We're not going to spend a lot of time using weird analogies about what eBPF is with pictures of bumblebees and things like that. We're going to get right down to brass tacks and nails on how you can use eBPF using Sysmon for Linux to get better visibility. So let's jump right in. All right, so the first thing that we're going to be looking at is the GitHub repository from sysinternals. Sysinternals was created by Mark Rasanovich to enhance what you can do on a Windows computer system. It used to be called NT-internals. It was purchased by Microsoft, and they've released Sysmon for Linux. And they have a great step-by-step instruction guide on how to get it installed on Ubuntu 18.04, 20.04, 21.04, Debian, Fedora, Red Hat Linux, CentOS, and so on. I am going to be using Ubuntu because Ubuntu tends to be the most accessible distribution for the vast majority of people. And I know that somebody out there is going to be like, no way, man, Arch and Int. No, stick with the instructions in the specific versions that they have, and you will have fewer problems in your life. So if we're going through the instructions, that's it. We literally have 4 commands we run to get Sysmon for Linux running. One is just downloading packages from Microsoft to get it set up so we can actually use Microsoft as a repository for advanced packaging tool or APT. Then we're going to install the packages from Microsoft. We're going to do apt get update. And then we're going to install Sysmon for Linux. And then I'm going to show you some useful things that you can do with it. All right, so let's get started. We're going to do the awesome copy and paste command. I'm going to go over to my Ubuntu system that I just downloaded. Password is my password for the VM. There we go. And I'm going to paste in the command to wget and pull down this package right here. It was able to pull down the package for my specific LSB release. So it got the right package for my distribution. So it makes it super easy to do that. Then we're going to install that deb package. So all of a sudden we have the APT packages that we need from Microsoft. Password. There we go. Now we have them installed. Now we have to go through and pull down what is in those packages. I'm just going to do an apt-get update. And you're going to see it go through and you're going to see it pull down the various repositories from Ubuntu, but you're also now going to see the Microsoft repositories. Now, these Microsoft repositories is the land in which our Sysmon for Linux packages reside. It's fetched a number of packages. While it's doing that, I'm going to jump over and I'm going to go and get the command apt-get install Sysmon for Linux. We go back over. Come on. Reading the package list. There we go. Control L to clear the screen. Now we're just going to copy and paste the command to install Sysmon for Linux. And voila, that's pretty much it at that point. We now have Sysmon for Linux installed on our Ubuntu system, but it is not running at this point. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to become root. Because this is an eBPF package, we're going to be doing stuff to the kernel. And for us to do stuff to the kernel, we got to be root to do that. So I'm going to become root. So I'm going to type Sysmon like so. And it's going to come out and say, hey, the first thing that you need to do, and I'm just translating the French that's down here at the bottom, is you got to accept the EULA. All right, that's fair enough. I can accept that EULA right there. So we just got to add that as an option, copy it, and then we'll do Sysmon like so. We're going to accept said EULA, hit enter. Now we're ready to actually initialize it, and that's easy peasy. Just do Sysmon space -I. So let's spend a couple of seconds and let's talk about configs. There's a number of places where you can get configs for Sysmon. I'm going to run it without a config. It's just going to log a whole bunch of stuff. Incredibly noisy, but great fidelity as far as what's going on. Robert, or Cyber War Dog, has a great set of Sysmon configs for Linux. And then MSTIC has a number of configs that you can run as well. So these are just configuration files that say what it is you're going to log. And usually what you end up doing with a lot of the configs is establishing exclusions from them as well. So, and if you look at Olaf Hartog and his configurations, he does a lot more with like tagging. We don't have any configurations that I've seen so far for Sysmon for Linux that are as advanced as that, but I'm sure it's going to come. But you can get some basic configs and some great instructions and some great utilities to get started with that. So you can actually map things back to the MITRE ATT&CK technique matrix. So be sure to check those out. But for this, we're just going to run Sysmon like so. And that's kind of it. A couple of seconds, I'm going to get my command prompt back on the left-hand side. And then on the right-hand side, we're going to be looking at how these logs actually look on the Ubuntu system. So if I do tail -F and I do var log, all of this XML data that you see here is literally the different events of Linux, because it says this is the time, this is the name of the system, it's coming from Sysmon, and then, like I said, it's literally in straight up XML. This can be a bit, I guess, this can be a bit intimidating, right? How can we actually parse this? How can we actually cut through it to find specific things that are going on in the system? So let me kill that real quick. And let me show you kind of what it looks like. I can do grep, let's say Sasquatch, like so. And now it's got our original thing where I said grep Sasquatch. Now, if I do touch a file, creating a file rather, called Sasquatch, like so, you're immediately going to see that that command showed up over here. And it said, what is the current directory? What is the user? The user was root. What was the session terminal ID? A lot of the different information that you're used to seeing in standard Sysmon data, including things like the process ID, the parent process ID, if there's a process GUID associated with it, when was that it was actually created, all of the good stuff that we know and love from Sysmon, but we're actually seeing it on our Linux computer system. Now, once again, this bit of log data can seem really, really, really intimidating, and especially whenever you're looking at all the XML data. And it turns out that whenever you install Sysmon for Linux, you actually get another tool that is very helpful for actually going through and parsing this data as well. The name of this tool is called Sysmon Log Viewer. And what it does, it actually parses those logs and gives us some powerful features that allows us to search for specific event IDs, look for specific strings, and bring back specific events as we need them. So I'm going to go ahead and just run Sysmon log view -H to get some basic help associated with it. And let's go ahead and let's take this and make it a little bit bigger like that, so it's a little bit better. We can filter on just specific event IDs, and you can do multiple switches, only events within a specific range of record IDs, events within a specific timestamp as well, looking for a specific field that you can look for. Of course, it's case sensitive. It's kind of like the ability of grepping as well. And then print blank line between the events. So let me show you what this actually looks like. So I can cat var log syslog like that, and then I can pipe it through Sysmon log view, and it actually breaks the logs up. And instead of having all the XML data, the open and close brackets, it's literally telling you we've got a process terminate, process create. You can see I invoked Sysmon log view. You can see the process ID. If there's a company associated with it, it would show you that. Who ran that particular process, the parent user, parent command line. Once again, getting all of the information that you would normally expect on a Windows computer system, but you're getting it on a Linux computer system. So we can add additional filters to that as well. I can do E1 for process creation events. And now it's just showing me all of the different events that are process creation events. Very much human readable, making it a lot easier for you to look at it. Now, ideally, you would still want to parse these logs and send them off to your SIM and look for specific signatures. And one of the things that I love about this is you also run into situations where some companies are using something like Audit D. And there's a number of different ways to bypass Audit D, like security logging. One of them would be put all your evil stuff in a file called notevil.sh and execute that. Audit D can be blinded by such tricks. But with Sysmon for Linux, it would be a lot more difficult. You also have the performance associated with Sysmon for Linux. It's very, very fast, running at the kernel, doing all kinds of really super cool things. So let's talk a little bit about the drawbacks of Sysmon for Linux, because I think that is actually really, really important. So one of the drawbacks that you hear quite often is eBPF is dangerous. You shouldn't be running eBPF because eBPF could be used to leverage an attack. I think that this argument is garbage. And I want to explain why. I think that this argument is garbage because you need to be root to run this. And to be honest, loadable kernel modules have pretty much the exact same risk profile, right? So you're basically going to be looking at that. And everything comes down to a balance. I want to see what processes are executing. Network connections. I need that visibility in my security operations center. I've got Sysmon for Linux. Is there a risk of having another tool with kernel level capability? Yeah, that is in fact a risk that exists. But I'm willing, there's never going to be any security vulnerabilities. Hell no. You're absolutely going to see security vulnerabilities in eBPF, and you're going to see probably vulnerabilities in Sysmon for Linux. It's software. All software has security vulnerabilities in it. We've got to somewhat get used to that as a thing, right? But if I have visibility, and I have visibility of process execution, and I have visibility of network connections, and I instrument it properly, it greatly increases the odds of me being able to detect the bad people doing bad things, That's the goal, right? It's visibility. We should never be looking at any technology and saying it is 100% secure and it makes all of our lives that much more fun and rose filled with rainbows and everybody farts Skittles. You're not going to get that. So, yes, there are absolutely enhanced security risks associated with adding more software, but that vulnerability exists for any software that you add. The other thing that I think that we need to talk about as well is the logging fidelity and the tuning associated with it. Yeah, you're probably going to have to do some tuning. There's not a lot of things right out of the box that allow you to detect and do full level EDR with this, even though all of the stuff that you need is pretty much right there. If you're looking for a product that's dead close to giving you that type of visibility, please take a few moments and look at a company named Spider-Bat. Yeah, I know you have the song in your head too. Spider-Bat, Spider-Bat. But they use eBPF and it's very similar to Sysmon for Linux, but they have a great GUI. They have great detections. So check them out. So yeah, if you're looking for something out of the box and a company that actually uses eBPF for detection, Spider-Bat is pretty solid. And I know that there's some other ones out there. It's just Hal Palmerans told me the people from Spider-Bat are cool. That means they're cool, right? So yes, there are definitely some drawbacks in the fact that it's still very much a beta project. I mean, Microsoft is releasing updates. They're committed to the project. Robert or Cyber War Dog has a great blog post on Medium talking about setting up and deploying it automatically in your Azure instances. And that's something you should be doing, right? So you need to have that level of visibility in your security operations center. I don't know why more Linux shops aren't using it. I think it's because a lot of the videos on eBPF are really, really, really super geeky, nerdy, and it's very intimidating. And you can't just sit down and run eBPF and say, wow, this is cool. You've literally got to write wrapping code that invokes and calls other applications. So it's got a steep learning curve. But Sysmon for Linux really cracks that wide open and makes it a lot easier. All right. Let's see if we have any questions on this. Not a lot of questions. I like that. Hoax Paragon said Sysmon for Linux because there's never enough Microsoft in Linux, right? Will I die if I install Sysmon for Linux on WSL? It will not work on Windows subsystem for Linux 2. And the reason why is many of the Linux distributions are using init and not systemd. It actually requires systemd to install properly. The other thing that sucks about it is it looks like it's installing, it looks like it's working properly, but it's totally not. So you need to be running a Linux system with full systemd instead of init. For actually being set up. So that's just one thing. And yes, White Cyberdog, you will die if you install it, but you're going to die anyway. So, hey, might as well install Windows subsystem for Linux and Sysmon for Linux on all of your other Linux computer systems because it'll make the rest of your life that much more interesting. All right, what other questions do we have here? I think that's pretty it. I have some sad news, everybody. Some sad news. This is the last live address-based layout randomization that we're going to be doing. And I want to explain why. We started this out as basically an attempt to reach out to the Twitch generation. We wanted to get Twitch, get followers, and do live streams and do those things. And it turns out we found that a lot of corporations actually block Twitch. So our user base was very much limited in that. So what we're going to be focusing on is, that we normally do full webcasts and we do them like every Thursday. Look at those as like TED Talks, right? So what we're going to be doing, and Ryan's going to be spearheading this, is we're going to be doing a lot of short form content, like talking about tools and topics in under 5 minutes, like Nmap in under 5 minutes, Wireshark in under 5 minutes, kind of get away from kind of the sans long form explanation of a tool and really get to the meat of what it is a tool does and why you would actually do that. Not that the long form stuff is bad. It's just we've noticed that a lot of people out there, whenever they're looking for quick hits and explanations on things on YouTube, they're looking for quick hits. They're not looking for a full TED Talk where they can grab a cup of hot cocoa and curl up and just watch it. So we're really going to be focusing on breaking things up into very, very tight things. And this is very much, it's not necessarily full TikTok, Hoax Paragon, but 5 minutes, 5 to 10 minutes tops. And I think that that's for a lot of people that are busy. Like the video we just did, totally we can chunk that up and get it out there in 10 minutes or less. So even though I'm really going to be kind of doing that, I am still going to be doing Restream, and I'm going to create these things live. So we'll still be live streaming them, but it's probably going to be something like John's going to take 4 hours and teach, like 8 topics or 15 topics or 20 topics. And we're going to record all of it and then chunk it up and release those in smaller chunks out there as well. So we're absolutely not going to stop the content. If anything, this is going to enable us to do more content. It's just recording and setting up everything live is a bit more difficult. We want to be able to create lots and lots and lots of content. And I'm still going to make myself available for those sessions whenever we do them sometimes. It all depends on how prepared I am in doing those particular sessions. So fear not. And like I said, the webcast's not going away. In fact, this opens up 2 additional days that we can do webcasts. Another problem that we have at Antisyphon and Black Hills Information Security is we have way too many TED Talk long form sessions for all the instructors in all their classes. And we've been holding that to Thursday. This allows us to do them on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. As Ryan just said, it's not the end. It's just we're taking another form. And really, a lot of this has to do with Ryan, right? Ryan has a finite amount of time and ability as a human being to do this work. And the live sessions take a lot more time out there as well. So yeah, we're going to be trying to condense this stuff, opening up more space for doing the long form, kind of like I said, and I didn't mean this as a derogatory thing, but kind of the way SANS does things in their classes. Like if you take a class from SANS, you're going to talk about a tool, you're going to spend an hour talking about that tool. And you're going to learn the ins and outs. You're going to learn it in a lot of detail. You're going to do a hands-on. You're going to do all of that. We're still doing those things, but we're also going to be creating 5 to 10 minute quick hits on those different tools. And now you can do it out there as well. All of the new content will be hosted on YouTube. So that is where we're going to be putting everything. My live sessions, whenever I'm recording things, I might put those out on Twitch as well, but I don't know. Also, the other thing about this is we're not getting rid of pay what you can. We're not getting rid of our training that Chris Brenton and I do. Those things are still going to be happening. We're just trying to streamline the way that we can get more content. And like I said, this is good because we have spreadsheets built of just lots of content we want to get out the door. We have lots of instructors that want opportunities to present and showcase their classes to the community and give free, awesome content. We just don't have enough cycles for it. So this allows us to get the cycles that we need to do that and do right by you all. So that's it. So if there's no more questions on this, will I game on Twitch? It would be really one of the most boring, horrible things you have ever seen. I suck at games. One of my best friend from high school, best man in my wedding, we were hanging out in an arcade the other day, and we were playing Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and I was getting my ass kicked. And I remember asking him, I was like, oh my God, when did I start sucking at this game? And he's like, 1994. And I'm like, you ass. So no, that's not something that anyone wants to see out there as well. So, all right, everybody. So with that, let's sign off. If you haven't noticed, I'm doing another Pay What You Can session next week for Intro to Security. Be sure to check out the Hackdown. Smackdown Hackdown, where we're going to be doing the most offensive security conference that ever offensive. That's going to be coming up in March, and be checking out all the stuff. We got a ton of things coming down the pipe, and it's all about putting out there as much kick-ass content as you can possibly handle. So with that, Ryan, are we ready to sign off, sir?
All right, let's kill it with fire.
All right. Take care. Oh, the news is still happening every Monday.
Oh, yeah.
News totally still happening. Just the
Not
Tuesday,
going
Wednesday.
away.
Not going away. Also, the walkthroughs of, I think we're going to record those. All right, everybody. Take care.